Last night I got to see in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, that American democracy can be a pretty worn down and creaky Rube Goldbergian machine. At times it's made that way on purpose. In other words, there are people who have an interest in making sure the country is less democratic than it should be. Take, for instance, Wisconsin Republican Representative Glenn Growthman, who as a state senator in 2014 told colleagues he wanted to nip early voting in the bud before it spread to more communities, and who just last night seemed to suggest that Wisconsin's voter ID law could skew the presidential election in Republicans' favor.
You know that a lot of Republicans since 1984 in the presidential races have not been able to win in Wisconsin. Why would it be any different for Ted Cruz or a Donald Trump?
Well, I think Hillary Clinton is about the weakest candidate the Democrats have ever put up. And now we have photo ID, and I think photo ID is going to make a little bit of a difference as well.
Huh, interesting.
But the Democrats are crying foul tonight that some of their supporters never cast a ballot because of the new voter ID law.
And a former Republican state Senate staffer says they have reason to be concerned. New at 6, Capitol Bureau Chief Greg Newman's got you covered with more on that story tonight.
When he lived in California, barista Mikey Vega never cared about voting.
When I came to Madison, that's when I started paying more attention to politics.
So a few days before Tuesday's primary, he went to the Department of Motor Vehicles to get a state-issued photo ID so he could vote.
It was pretty frustrating, to be honest.
Michael thought his California driver's license would be all he'd need to show here in order to pick up a new Wisconsin ID. He thought wrong.
I needed a birth certificate or like a passport, and I didn't have it.
And I didn't even know that you had to have a birth certificate now in order to get a simple Wisconsin ID or driver's license.
And Mikey's boss knows a thing or two about Wisconsin's voter ID law.
Because I was in the room when this particular piece of legislation was conceived and born, and it was really the impetus of me deciding to leave the Republican Party at the time.
Todd Albaugh was the chief of staff for former state Senator Dale Schultz. Albaugh tells 27 News other Republican senators seemed giddy to make it harder for minorities and college students to vote.
There's no doubt in my mind whatsoever what the intent of that bill was, and indeed it was voter suppression.
And on Tuesday night, former Republican Senator Glenn Growthman told a Milwaukee news station a GOP presidential candidate has a good chance to win in Wisconsin this year because Hillary Clinton is weak.
And now we have photo ID, and I think photo ID is going to make a little bit of a difference as well.
You know, Greg, some bills, when they're conceived, they don't really know how they're going to work in practicality. This bill worked exactly the way it was intended.
In Madison, Greg Newman, 27 News.
State Democratic Party Chair Martha Lanning says Growthman, now a congressman, may as well have said Republicans rigged elections in order to win. A spokesperson for Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald said he had no comment on Todd Albaugh's assertion that Republican senators intended to suppress the vote with the photo ID law.
A Wisconsin congressman sparked discussion on social media with a comment that the new voter ID law in Wisconsin will help the GOP nominee win the White House in November. Republican Glenn Growthman made this statement to our partner station, WTMJ, during a live interview last night.
Well, I think Hillary Clinton is about the weakest candidate the Democrats have ever put up. And now we have photo ID, and I think photo ID is going to make a little bit of a difference as well.